you have a unique perspective, right? You have kind of have an English, but you know the American system and not Jamaican. So
Yeah.
tell me about how you feel as an athlete with the world of color, like how you identify with kind of, we say the blacks in gymnastics are not a lot, they're more, but how do you look at it from your unique background?
Um, yeah, that's an interesting question, definitely. I'm half Polish and half Jamaican, and like you've mentioned, I've born and raised in the UK, competed in the college system, um, but I've always, just from a young age, been really sort of confident in myself. And I know this is like a lucky attribute to have, but I was just really comfortable in the skin that I have been blessed with, and I always loved my hair, and I never sort of thought, oh, this is because I'm black or because I'm half white or whatever it is. So I think that is obviously something that nowadays you need to, well, not even nowadays, just in other people, sometimes this doesn't come as naturally and you need to instill this. But something that I really and truly loved about the college system, and particularly sort of Miss Val's ethos and being at UCLA, was they really wanted to celebrate everyone's uniqueness. And UCLA is obviously always one of the teams that does have a lot of diversity and stuff like that. So I think there I even took that to another level. Like I was always very comfortable, and UCLA took me to that next level where I was like, actually, I really want to show it off, like doing hair choreography and stuff like that, and just like the things that make me me. And that doesn't necessarily need to be the things that make me black, the things that make me white, the things that make me Danusia is what it was about. And I just loved that. And that's sort of a message that I want to portray in my gymnastics and in any coaching and any talks and stuff that I do.
That's wonderful. Now I had to tell you, because coming from a performer, like I've done Broadway and stuff, I don't know if everybody understands choreography, right? We know Beyonce knows what choreography is,
Yeah.
but why don't you explain that a little bit?
Well, Miss Val's got nice like curly hair herself, and she was just always yeah, she just loves curly hair because she's got it or whatever it is about it. And yeah, I think it was straight away from my freshman year. She was like, we need to incorporate your hair, and I was like, oh, like sort of an elite, you're in a more structured environment, there's kind of like unwritten rules to follow where it's just more formal. And so this idea, to me, I was so excited about it. And as I mentioned, I've always liked my curly hair, don't think I actually suit straight hair, so I was like really into the idea. And then it just became like a thing that I had in most of my routines going forward. So I would either like just like ruffle it, or I would like pull a curl up. And I think obviously my hair was super blonde then as well, so it was like a really like a trademark thing. So yeah, I loved it, and I think it was always a bit of a crowd pleaser too.
Oh, definitely. So how did you end up choosing UCLA?
Um, so I was always thinking I was going to stop gymnastics at 18. Funny saying that now because I'm still going, but yeah, the Olympics in 2012, I was like, if I go to the Olympics or not, I will stop at 18. Like I'm an adult, that's perfect timing. That's kind of what my young self thought was the best plan. And then a couple of my friends, one from a different club and one from the same club, went to America a few years before me, and they were absolutely loving it. So I think that kind of sparked something in my mum's mind. She was close friends with my friend's mum as well, and she was telling her about it. And my mum was like, well, why don't you consider it? Yeah, and I was like, oh, gymnastics for another 4 years. That really didn't appeal to my teenage self. And I'd heard of UCLA, and I actually didn't even know if they had a gymnastics program, didn't know anything about Miss Val, didn't know anything about them, but I just kind of heard of this famous university. So I thought I'll just put my mum, stop her from like bringing it up, and I'll just say, I said to her, I'll go if I can get a scholarship to UCLA. And like literally didn't even know anything about it. I don't know why I even said that. She was like, okay. And like she did her research, so she knew they had this great gymnastics team. I don't know whether she thought I had a chance or not, but she then went on to a message board that she found online that was about college gymnastics, and just put a message in there saying, my daughter's Danusia Francis. I was wondering if anyone thinks she has a chance at going to a college. She's particularly interested in UCLA. And then a few people were friends with some of the coaches. So they responded back and said, oh, I'm friends with Miss Val. And then someone else I think was friends with Rhonda, who was at Florida at the time, and said, I can contact them on your behalf. And so they did. And then Miss Val got back, and she came to England first, and we met her, and I loved her from the get-go. And then I went for my what's it called, recruit trip, and that was kind of like what did it for me. My recruit trip was so much fun. And obviously all the campuses are just so perfect and just these like amazing places. And I was like, okay, fine, Mum, you were right, I'll go.
I got to take this one to her and say, yeah, Mom, you were right. Because, I mean, come on.
Yeah,
UCLA,
Mum's always right.
I mean, how can you go wrong going from England to LA? You know,
Yeah.
warm weather. Oh my gosh.
I still miss that weather every day.
That's so funny. You know what's so amazing about this story? Because in the U.S., the college recruitment and girls trying to get on the NC2A is like a big thing that goes years back. Like they start very, like, I don't know, 12, 13, 14. So it's so amazing how you were just, it like wasn't on your radar and you just did, how it worked out that way.
Yeah, and especially now I do a little bit of recruiting sort of on the side. And so I understand now, like you said, just how competitive it is, just how many years of sort of work and dedication parents and children put into going to their dream college. So when I look back, I'm like, wow, you were lucky. Like, well, I don't know how that happened. I was literally like 1 year before or something. And I just got super lucky. And I think it was all meant to be, definitely. And it was the perfect place for me. But yeah, now I realise like kind of how oblivious I was to the fact that I was like, oh yeah, only if I go to UCLA, like, oh wow, how ignorant.
It's great that it turned out. Oh my gosh, it's great. Now, so I know we have some other things, but I have to say, because I'm a big fan of Miss Val too, and her performance, which is still carrying on. This part of really, like you said, having all the gymnasts, their personality come out. Were you guys ever shy on this? Because this is kind of what you guys are known, and she's been doing this for a while. I mean, this goes back a long time, and it's her background. But as a gymnast, when you come to it, because you weren't aware of UCLA, right? So when you got there, this was kind of new, right? So how did you when it was presented to you, what did you think?
So once I kind of was like more into the idea of going, I started obviously watching their YouTube videos. And I remember Elise Hoffner-Hibbs and Matty Larson, them two routines were two of my favourites before I went in. I think Matty had that like doll routine, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And yeah, just like routines like that, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. I just love the concept. And even just from a young age, I've always like smiled in my routine and stuff like that. But UCLA just allows you to take it, or college in general just allows you to take it to that next level. And then I don't know if you've heard about Operation Peacock that we do at UCLA.
No, you got to tell me.
Yeah, so when everyone's got their floor routines choreographed, we would then have to dress up as our character and then perform your routine without the tumbles. So like people would get so into it, and I've got to give a shout out to Hallie Mossette. She was the best. She'd have like props hidden in every like corner of her body. It was like unbelievable. She'd like change costume somehow. Like she was a wizard. She was so good at it, but everyone got so into it, and it was just so much fun. So yeah, just literally taking it to that next level. And I know a lot of colleges do it, but I definitely think UCLA was kind of like steering it in that direction for a long time, like you said, and Miss Val.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. And Chris is doing a great job as a coach now. Yeah, we actually, full disclosure, Chris and I performed together back in 1992.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we did I was the rhythmic gymnast and announcer. It's kind of funny, on the Olympic tour, right? And Chris had to do all these routines. When you go back and see this whole stuff, he had to do a lot of stuff to the music too. So
cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know you did it. How amazing.
Yeah, it was really fun. I mean, that's as we do this whole thing, rhythmic, artistic, and I just love the performance aspect, because I think people don't really realize how joyful it is to be able to use your gymnastics when you perform. Like it just, like you said, it takes it to another level. It's so much more fun, right? And but let's go and talk a little bit more about your year coming up. And I know it's been a long year. Sorry. Oh my gosh. So how do you do this? Because I think people kind of say it, and the pandemic's been so difficult for so many levels, but waiting extra time to compete in Olympic Games is huge.
Yeah, it was interesting for me. I watched Simone's 60-minute thing just yesterday. It was obviously not nice, but it was relatable. That's the word I'm looking for. To see, like, obviously for her, she's got a lot of expectations and a lot of skills to train and all of that. So I know like it's a different level, but it's that relatability and that, oh my gosh, another year. Like it's such a long time in elite sport that you have to put your body through a lot. So yeah, I definitely felt like some of the similar emotions to what she described on there. Just at first of all, the hard part was actually when we weren't sure what was going to happen before it was announced to be postponed.
Yeah.
Because I think postponed was definitely better for cancelled for me, because this has just been such a long dream. And then now when I look at it, like, yeah, another year, and it kind of delays the next step of your life, which is a bit frustrating, but everyone's in the same sort of boat in that regard. And then for me, I've literally waited so long, like another year. What's another year?
Right.
Just put it in perspective. And like I said, now as well, the kids that aren't allowed to train. So I do feel really grateful every day that I'm allowed to train, and I'm training for the Olympics. Like, I had to pinch myself being able to say that this is something I've wanted since I was 6 years old. So yeah, I can't look at it in a negative way. I'm so excited, and yeah, I just feel grateful.
Now that's got to be exciting because your trip to the Olympics was taking a different road than many others, right? I mean, seriously, after everything you did to be able to do that one. So talk about keeping that fire in, the possibilities in your mind to really do Olympic Games.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, I mentioned wanting to stop gymnastics at 18 because I thought this is my chance for the Olympics. If I don't make it, that's it, door closed, move on. And then going to UCLA really opened my eyes up to a different way of training, a different way of viewing gymnastics, more of this performance side, which just really suited me as a performer, but also just like the training schedule, less the sort of quality over quantity, all of that. And I just learned so much about how to train better to suit me. And yeah, so all of that, and it just really made me fall in love with the sport again. And instead of chasing sort of scores, there's more just chasing like performance and chasing that love for it. And yeah, that definitely wanted me to then compete internationally again. And then 2016 qualifying for the test event, but then not going, kind of showed me, wow, you thought all your potential was 2012 in terms of Olympics, but you still do have that potential. But I still kind of was like, do I want to go like all the way again for another 4 years? It's always 4 years, but and then 5 in the end. But and then I was stopped gymnastics for a year and a half, and was happy, had a great time, didn't even think about Tokyo, didn't think about starting gymnastics again. And then there was just 1 week where I was coaching, and just loads of people happened to just say to me, oh, are you going to make a comeback to Tokyo? And this is when I've literally been like a year out of the sport. I was like, I don't know why people are bringing this up. And it just got like the thoughts going around my head a bit. I literally hadn't thought about it. And then I was like, called my mum, and I was like, loads of people keep asking me whether I'm going to go for the Tokyo Olympics. I was like, strange, isn't it? She was like, well, it's up to you. And she really didn't want to try and sway my decision. So she was kind of like, you're an adult now. So and I'd have to like move house to be closer to my gym. So it was like going to be quite a big decision. And then obviously with Jamaica, I know what I signed up for. I wasn't going to be getting paid. So I'd have to balance working with training. So it was a big decision at the time. And I kind of thought, let me go for Commonwealth first. And then if it goes well and I feel like I've sort of got my skills back and everything, because a year and a half out is a long time, then I'll go for Tokyo. So I started training for Commonwealth, but unfortunately Jamaica didn't have the money to send more than one gymnast, so they just sent one male gymnast. And then by that time though, because at the start I thought I would be able to go to Commonwealth if I'd got to the level, and so Commonwealth comes around and I've got all my skills back and didn't get to go. And then at this point I kind of just had to decide, am I going to go for Tokyo, or like, is that it? And so I really had to make that decision and sort of say it out loud and really just go for it. And it was just quite a scary thing to say out loud when you've missed out twice, because obviously like when you miss out, it's like I miss out by this much, so it's a great achievement, but it's also crushing, and it's that feeling of failure where obviously you grow from it, but it's still devastating at the time. So then to go through that third time and really like say to my coaches, okay, because they were like, oh, you're still training, Commonwealth didn't happen, and I'm like, well, I'm actually going for Tokyo. I had to really put it out there. So yeah, that was sort of the whole process of getting to that third time, and then obviously 2019 actually making it, just a dream come true.
So where do you get all this determination? I mean, I know gymnasts are pretty determined athletes because you kind of have to be, but this is taking it to another level.
Yeah.
To extend it. So you really, like you said, there's something in you that kept you going.
Yeah, I don't know if there's something I can fully pinpoint as like that is my determination, because I know like when I go to the Olympics, it's not like I'm gonna win 10 golds and become a millionaire. It's
Right.
just this dream that I've had since I was a child. And it's kind of like, if you've got this dream and you can make it reality, then why not? Like, you literally have one life. So just go for these things. Like, and when you look back on your life, you're the only person that has control over saying, oh, I did do that, or I didn't do that, I did go for that. And I just wanted to look back and not have any regrets. So I think actually, I would say not having any regrets was my main determination.
That's great. And that's really a great message. And especially because we inspire. So my foundation, we provide free and low cost training for kids. And my whole thing has been, especially in the States, as you said, gymnastics can be expensive on all different levels, especially here too. So if you really are already telling that message to young girls, especially, how do you keep going? Like for those that aren't practicing, like we're not back in our gym, right? And so we're trying to do it and keep them motivated. So when they look at someone like you who's had such a fabulous career, what would you tell young girls and young girls at color? Because my girls, they got the little puffy and curly hair too, which is something that we're promoting now. But what would you say to young girls about sticking it out in the sport of gymnastics?
Yeah, sticking it out in the sport, I think, is one thing, because you've always got a goal. But right now, like you mentioned, is extra hard. Like, we don't really, some people don't know when their next competition is and stuff like that. So I think right now it's just each day maybe making a small goal for yourself. And even if that's just like, okay, I'm going to sit in the splits while I watch TV, it doesn't need to be a great, huge milestone, like I'm going to learn a new move. It can just be something small, like I'm going to get better. I'm going to get 1% better each day, which is achievable at home right now. So when you get back in the gym, whether you've improved your spins, your leaps, or you're that much stronger in a certain area, that's going to contribute to the greater picture and the greater end goal. And then when you do get back into the gym, I think always having these big goals is really important. But even in the gym, just again, 1% better each day. Like Rome wasn't built in a day. So yeah, just a little bit. And I think in the end, that's all contributing to the greater goal at the end.
Oh, that's great. I think that's really lovely, and it's very true. So, I wanted just to thank you again. If there's anything you want to say, anyone you say to the Jamaican, I said some of my staff is from Jamaica. I know Miss Joan, who's
Hey.
hey, he's A for Jamaica, right? And gymnastics, because this is a big deal for them.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. And just something that has been so cool about this journey with being with Jamaica, it just feels so important, because now gymnastics is such a new sport in Jamaica. We've just end of 2019 had our first national facility open, and we're having like competitions, we're having other countries come and stuff like that. So it's just building and building, and just to know that I was a small part of like the beginning of all of it. And obviously you need the seniors like myself and the other girls and boys that are competing in the internationals to sort of be that inspiration and be those sort of trailblazers. So to just be able to say that I was one of the first people to compete internationally and the second ever Olympian for Jamaica, and then in the future to hopefully see an Olympic champion or a world champion from Jamaica, I'll just know that I was like tiny little part of that. And yeah, it's incredible.
Oh, that's great. That's really lovely, and it is true that to pay it forward, right, so that everyone can keep growing. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much. Is there any other message you want to go? We want to wish you luck. We're so excited.
thank you. And I
Yeah.
just want to say as well, what you're doing is amazing, just so
Oh,
inspirational. And I'm sure there's so many kids and then now adults that are just so grateful for it.
well, thank you. It's a love. As you know, we do all this craziness because we love gymnastics. You can be
Yeah,
going for the Olympics one more time unless you love your gymnastics. So it's hard. Oh, thank you so much for being with us. I really
you're so
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank
Okay,
you so much for having me.
definitely. Take good care and good luck.